How's it going, everyone? Alex here with Level Up with Alex, doing another game stream or game development stream for TerraFarmers. Today we're going to be working. We left off with the additions and changes to our toolbar, and now today we're going to be moving into day and night cycles, as well as planting and counting those day and night cycles into the growth cycles of our plants, which is going to be a big part of our game. And once we have those fundamentals in, we can start working on just like fleshing out the game a little bit further, bug fixes and things like that. So let's get started here. Didn't mean to do that. I'm actually going to be getting rid of the intro and the outro, as I'm doing some rebranding here. So let me just delete those. There we go. All right, let's cue some music, and let's get started here. All right. Let's see. All right. So I think what we're going to end up doing is going into our... We could either do this in our planting manager, because it is a it kind of like it's a feature that has to do with our plants, but I feel like it deserves its own script, even if it is such a basic thing. Let's go check out our main scene. I feel like it is a game feature, so it needs its own little space here. All right. So we're just going to copy planting logic, and we're going to name this day and night. We're going to move it up. And we need to create a new event. There's just a random one there. So we'll delete this one, and we'll rename this one to day cycles. Day and night. Day and daylight manager. Or all right, day-night manager. So a couple of things we got to do real quick is we want our server to be managing the day and night cycle. So what we want to do is either we're going to add a global variable. It could be a scene variable now that I ponder this. Either way, it'll be both run by the server when we start incorporating those things. So let's do we'll do a scene variable. So right click, go into the scene properties, add a scene variable. We have quite a few that we use now that aren't even built into the scene. That's all right. We're gonna add a new variable. We're gonna call it let's see here. Um, well, maybe day. We'll just do day night. And we're gonna set this to 0. We're gonna kind of use it like a boolean. You could say day if day true or false. We're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna use a toggle 0 or 1. And let's see here. We do have a lighting layer. There's a couple of ways. Okay, so I'm gonna show you first. We're gonna rudimentarily create the day and night cycle, and then from there we're going to expand on. We're gonna end up expanding on that code, but for now we're gonna make a very simple counter system. I just realized you guys probably can't even hear the music because it's turned really far down. There we go. Alright, so the next thing to do here. Right, so the next thing we need to do is in our UI, I'm going to add a new folder, call it lighting. Inside of that folder, we're going to create a new object. That object needs to be a sprite. We're going to call it day. No, not late at all, Sean. I got started a little late, so we're just kind of getting ramped up. We're just starting. How are you? Good good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and wherever you are. We are going to add, or we're going to create a sprite. And for this, we can just fill it in as black. I'm doing pretty good, thank you. We're going to go to our lighting layer because it's above... yeah. We're going to go to our lighting layer. We're going to drag in the daylight, and we're going to stretch it over our entire scene. We can do over just a little bit too, just in case the camera has some sort of boundary clip. So 2 all the way around. And then we're just going to make sure that we put it on the lighting layer. And it is. Perfect. So now we can visually hide that layer for a moment. Because what we're going to do is in our day-night manager. I'm doing well, thank you. Enjoying getting the morning started. I was thinking about what to do on stream today, and so we're going to be making a day-night system, starting with a really rudimentary, and then building it into something more robust over time here. But let's see here. So, we need to create as well, before I forget, a text slot. So let me go into my layers here. Instance. Go to text slot. This thing needs to be massive. Wait. We gotta go back to text slot. There it is. Alright. So we're gonna start with a very clear event group day cycle. At the beginning of the scene, before we do in the beginning of the scene, what we want to do is we want to change the text of the slot text. Give me a second here. I don't want to do that. We're gonna get rid of this. What the heck? Delete this. Let me move this, please. Oh my goodness. It has nothing in it, so it's being here. Let me see if I can... Curse you, text slot. Why can't I delete you from here? I guess we'll just add a number so I can grab it and delete it. There we go. Hey, Riley. Welcome back. Inside of our lighting UI, we're going to duplicate our text. We're going to just duplicate this. Move it into our day and night. And we're going to call this... day text. Day debug. Alright, now we can add this into our game. And we want this to be on the UI layer. But now in the first thing we want to do is set our days debug counter to a variable, the scene variable, the number variable of day night, so normally I use the click down system, which I normally wouldn't do. There's another way of doing this, which is just variable string. So rather than saying toString and then wrapping all of that, the cleaner way of saying it is variable string. And then we want it to be equal to day night. So now the day debugger will be configuring itself to the variable string of day night. Let's see here. Oh, wait. No. We need to add, here. A day counter. Sorry. So, the very next thing we need to do is at the beginning of the scene, we're going to start running the rest of our day and night cycle behavior. So, at the beginning of the scene, we want to change the opacity of day to 0. So, we want it to be completely black, or transparent. The inverse of black. Nothing. And then underneath that, we want a trigger that says if the variable of the scene, let's see, if the text, where's the scene variable? If the text number variable of day night is equal to 0. So if it is daytime, basically, I want you to wait. And we're going to do this quickly first, and then we're going to figure out the math. So we're going to just say, let's say 3 seconds. So every 3 seconds do this thing. We want the opacity. So wait 3 seconds, and then here we have an if statement. If the opacity of day night, if the day opacity is less than or equal to 100 and let's say 190, That'd be pretty dark. Uh, change the scene variable. Change the scene variable scene. Wait, sorry. Change the opacity. My brain. Change the day opacity. Add 1. There we go. My brain had a hiccup there for a second. So what we're doing is if it is daytime, we want to start turning it to nighttime. So if it is daytime, wait 3 seconds, and after X amount of seconds, in this case, okay, 3, and the opacity is less than or equal to 190, add 1 every tick. And then we can build the next set of logic, which is we want to build this outside of this logic where we just add in the same cycle. So we don't want it to be a child of that script process. Excuse me. I'm gonna drink my tea. The opacity of, let's see, if the opacity of day is 190, so you can say greater than or equal to 190, then we want to do we want to set the scene variable to nighttime. So now we want to basically take this and do the scene. What is it? Sorry. I'm like you can tell I programmed because I'm trying to grab what I would call it, but then you got to use their like pre-built stuff here. So if the number variable of day night, we're gonna set it to then 1. So now it is nighttime. If we reach 190, we have reached night. And what happens? So this is like midnight. Once we hit here, this is midnight. Now we got to get brighter. So now we take this, and we can just duplicate the... Now, if night is 1, right? We want to then add the night is 1 logic. And it's pretty straightforward. We don't want our game to be the same day and night. Well, maybe you do, but I don't. I don't want my nighttime to be as long as my daytime. I want it to be shorter. I want my night times to go by faster than daytime, currently, at least in this build. So what we want to do is, am I using a tick system? Elaborate. As in, at an X amount of seconds, time passes? Or what do you mean, Riley? Elaborate. And we're just going to be working backwards here. So if it is 1 and our opacity is greater than or equal to 0, we want to then subtract 1. And now we're just working in the opposite direction. And then now that we have a counter going forward and a counter going backwards, we very simply oh, yeah, Riley. Yes. Then the answer to that is yes-ish. Yes-ish. It works the same way, technically. We have stages, not... I hadn't thought about X ticks per second and so on. That would be interesting, and I'll have to think about that logic as we grow our base. But that would unify some things in the long run. I hadn't considered that. But we are using some sort of ticks. to, like, we're going to have a counter. So now we're kind of developing, I guess, that system right now, aren't we? Now that I'm thinking about it, that is exactly what we're doing. We're going to, here, once we start waiting on wait time, then we decide how long a tick is, and so on and so forth. So, continuing here, we're almost done with our day-night cycle, like, legitimately. So, at least the very bare bones. So now that we have that in place, now we would know that we're moving forward and moving backwards. And we can do that here. Whack! That's whack. Oh. That is because I'm dumb. Yeah, that's why. Don't worry about it. So basically what we got to do is got to change this to the day-night manager. I forgot to initialize it in our game script. So, there we go. Now, slowly, it's going to get dark. That is pretty damn dark. Now, it should become daylight. Whoo, baby! We got day and night. And then it should repeat. No. Because... yeah, okay. So it doesn't repeat yet, but it will in a second. Because now we have to change this. Similarly, just to keep it in flow. Hello, I don't know how to say your name. If I say that, I will butcher it. There we go. So we gotta do this where we just flip these around. Okay, boom. Yes, yes. I am making my game TerraFarmers. Okay, so now what should happen is it should go dark to light, back to dark. And then we just need to work on our day counter. So now we have daylight coming. And now we should be having darkness coming back. Yes. And then back to light. Perfect. All right, so now our world is breathing. Obviously, it's going very quickly, but at the beginning of the scene, we also want to set the layer show the lighting layer. And now we can, in our game scene editor, we can actually hide our lighting layer while we're working, so we don't have to worry about that being a problem. And we can actually put this on the same layer as well. And we'll just put it... It is listed above the day and night cycle, so that should be fine. And now going back into our game, we have just 2 more things to do. We need to define what the counter ticking is. So very, very simply, we need to do if the scene variable is 0, then we need to trigger this once. And we need to do the same thing if it is 1. And all we have to do is change the... We're going to change another variable, but we're going to be changing the day counter variable now. So now we can change the scene variable of day counter. And we can add 1. So now... Okay. We're going to bring the debugger back to the UI layer. All right, let's try that. There we go. 1. Let's watch it go. When it becomes daylight again. 2. 3. All right, so we have a day counter. Right. So now from that logic, you're a Scratch user. Awesome. Visual coding is really cool. I'm using GDevelop 5. Okay. So now we have a day. We have a very rudimentary day and night cycle. The next thing that we want to figure out is some math here. Let's see. Um, I'm trying to figure out what the math on this. So while I'm quiet, it's because I am doing a little bit of coding work here, or trying to figure. I'm writing in another program, trying to figure out what the math is. Mm, hmm. So basically, what I'm trying to scratch my head and figure out right now is I'm gonna do one of these things, which I've been doing recently, uh, drawing it. So effectively, I'm trying to figure out the math of if 0 is our base unit and opacity is 100 and our max opacity is 190, and that is the scale of our day and night. Nighttime is 190, where daytime is all the way 0. And so right now, every 3 seconds, we're adding 1 every 3 seconds. But now what I need to do is extrapolate. We need to start a counter for time. So this is where we start ticking, right? So now we have to figure out, we have to create a new variable, which is time, right? So time is going to be calculated per second, or in this case, per every minute, because I want 1 minute equal to 1 hour of game time. So now time equals, or time is equal to time counter, time count, time count. And so then we figure time count by time count every 60 seconds. Time count plus 1, effectively. So time count is 0 every 60 seconds. Plus 1 to time scale, I guess. So the first thing I need to work out is let's add a new scene variable. Uh, okay. Create a event to update the time variable every second. So we're going to let me just think about this in a different format. So this is time scale, or time tick, time counter. So the first thing we need to do is every wait every 60 seconds. Modify a variable. So every 60 seconds, we're going to add, we're gonna scene, variable number. We're gonna make one up. Time counter 1. It's kind of interesting because 20 ticks per second? That's a lot of ticks. It's a lot of math. I'm trying to think about, like, with what Riley said earlier with Minecraft doing 20 ticks. I'm talking about every minute doing a tick. And for my game, I guess that makes sense. But I couldn't imagine running at so many ticks a second. Because that would be like every 1 second add 20 ticks. But you know, it's like that would actually be like at 0.1 second add 2. That would be nuts. So time counter is now 1. And then always change. The object is greater than the opacity. Variable opacity time divided by 24. So if the time counter similar, like, so just working on a new method here, right? So if the scene counter uh is equal to, and this would be time counter. So whenever time counter is at 0, once. So we're kind of copying like what's at the bottom here, actually, right? So now we would say that working these two scripts into each other, we can now say, so every 60 seconds we now have a time counter. And whenever our time counter is 0, we're going to be controlling how our day and night happens now based on time, not on the arbitrary system we had before, right? So, and in this case, we want to change the scene time counter to 0. Right? This is gdevelop 5. So whenever we hit 24, and we can say greater than or equal to just in case, right? Just in case there's some sort of hiccup. Sorry, is that one needs to be is 0. And I think this would need to be 23 minutes because we're counting from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. Well, because then you have to count all of that time between 0 Because if we went to 0, we have to wait 60 seconds before we hit to 1. Unless we say if it is 0, mark it to 1. No, I'm gonna think about that. So now we have a time counter, effectively. And then every time our time counter reaches a certain point, we change our day cycle. So for now, if we disable all of that additional change, we should now have our day counter properly working. And all we have to do is add a time counter. And so similarly in our UI, we're just going to make let's say we're going to duplicate our day debugger. We're going to call it time counter, or time TC debug. We're going to add that as well. There we go. Okay, it's already there. And then we need to as well. Oops. There we go. Add a condition to the top, just like this one. And say TC debug. TC debug. And this needs to be time counter. Oops. Oh my goodness. There we go. Why didn't that work? Oh, it's because I put it on the wrong layer again. This needs to be on the UI layer. Alright. So now, every 60 seconds, we should see this going. I am not waiting that long. So we're going to adjust this to be every 1 second for now. Just to make sure that we're actually... Woo! Our day counter's not moving. Oh, it's because we're not switching between day and night. Wait. Slow that down a second so I can find out what's going on here. What? Is this just happening so fast that it's breaking? What? We can add a condition here that says as long as the time counter is less than or equal to 24. To every 3 seconds do this. Why is that happening so fast? What have I done? That makes sense, Riley. No one likes going to do anything on a Monday. Let me take a look at this. Every time this is true. 1. Yeah, see, that makes sense. Alright, we need to repeat this. Okay. So now we need to add a repeater. I don't know why that took me so long to figure out. That seems silly. So we need to repeat this a number of times between, so we need a modula between two numbers. Okay. So basically, what this wouldn't work. This would just do it always, 23 times. But effectively, we need to modulate between two values: the beginning counter and the end counter of time. So this is where we start getting into like ticks and other things, I believe. So because this is going to continuously go depending on um, a counter. A loop, I think. Because effectively what we want to do is when we have time start, we're going to just call it TS. So time start. So we have time start is 0. Time end is 24. Right? And we want to repeat this as long as for the difference between these two number of times. So then if we then change time counter to time start, the time starts, and when we repeat this action, we want to wait 60 seconds in between each one we do. And then we're going to reset time start when we get to the end back to 0. And that would be like time counter. And then we have, day counter. So when we reset that back to 0, every time it's 0, day plus 1. So let's figure that out. So we want to modulate this time start to, and this needs to be variable time start to variable time end. Repeat this a number of times. We want to wait. In this case, we're going to wait a second. Add a tick. At the beginning of the scene, we're going to set the variable of the number variable of time start to 0 and time end to 24. I'm just going to move that down here. Beginning of the scene, we want to do that. And then repeat every 1 second. Add to that counter. And this would be like ticks. So every time we do this, wait a second. These are kind of in my way for now. So beginning of the scene, set as 0. So we're going to do this 24 times. Wait a second. And then we're going to do a counter. So now we're going to change the time counter to 1. Add 1. Or is he going to add it all at once? I don't know. We're not watching that at all. So what we want to do is add another one of these guys. We're going to change this time counter to no. My brain. I think I've confused myself. I think I'm thinking about this way too hard. And there's a simple answer in front of me. So that should effectively work, I thought. Why wouldn't that work? So even if I said this to, let's say, 24 times, right? Wow! That's unhinged. Are my frames affecting this? Do we have to, like, time delta? See, that number is right. But that should only happen 24 times. Oh, but that's going to be infinitely repeating. Because there's no stop, right? So we then need to go backwards. No, no, not of all the sprites. Well, right now I'm not changing any opacity. I'm actually trying to measure time in the way that I want to measure time, but I think I am thinking about this just way, way too hard. Okay, so it's not registering. Why is that? Variable. Uh-huh. Instantly to 24. Uh, instantly to 24 because it's happening immediately. But now we need to modulate mod. The modulation isn't working, which that's interesting. All right. So why suddenly is this so difficult? All right. I hate math, and my brain is not in a math mood today. So, let's see here. What's up, Volts? How you doing? Good. That's awesome. That's a very broad question, and is largely subjective to personal bias, my friend. I think you should learn the language that you want to learn. I think that there's plenty of places to start. I would say if you're young and you're just getting started for the first time, Python or Lua. I think that a great place, of course, to get started is also GDevelop 5 because of its visual nature. But I think that a great learning place, just to understand code a little bit more, is downloading Love 2D and learning how to use Love 2D. This will teach you a lot about how to, and I think that what's fun about Lua is how easy it is to kind of script in this form. And you can learn all of this really cool stuff in Love 2D and start building up some understanding of how to use their systems. Now, if you struggle with learning learning to read from text, so basically whenever you would call one of these functions, you would use like love.audio, love.draw, and so we'll go back to Love 2D's main page just so I can reiterate here. So here we can see that we're calling these functions, right? One of the things that you'll have to look at is like in those functions, they have different additional functions. So love.graphics something else. And when you go into their wiki page, this is how you kind of learn from each of these. So as you want to learn how to do things, you kind of, oh, well, I want to learn more about how graphics work in this engine. Well, these are all the things that you can do with the graphics. And as you learn, you just sort of, you pick up knowledge over time, but you just kind of come in here and you click, and then you read up about it, learn how it works. It is a lot, but that's how it is for every language. And this isn't even, this is a framework for Lua. So learning Lua, though, you can get a Lua book, or there's some great videos on how to start learning how to use Lua. But I think practical application and learning through doing, at least for me, is the best way to go about it. So tinkering and learning how to do stuff. And that's why, as well, I do recommend GDevelop 5, because there isn't really a programming language to learn. You start learning the fundamentals of how code works. Which what I'm trying to do right now, I'm like overly complicated what I wanted to do. So I'm going to just can time counter, and we're going to reiterate how we're going to do our time counter. So okay, so here we go. Seconds, minutes, hours, day cycle. Okay, so we want to create these variables. And the first thing we do, so getting rid of day cycles for now. We're just going to mute that out. We're going to start with time cycle. Okay, in our time cycle, deleting everything from the very beginning. If I was coding this, I got to think about this, how I would program this if I was writing it myself. So we need to create some variables and work from there. So at the beginning of the scene, I want to create a couple of variables, and we can do that. Now in GDevelop is interesting, where we can create these variables out of thin air, where we don't have to predefine them inside of our scene manager. Like I don't have to go in here, right click, go into my scene properties and add them. We can just create them here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set the variable. So we're going to set the variable of the scene number. These are all number variables. And now we're just going to create them out of thin air. So we're going to set seconds to 0. Oops. Okay. All right. We're going to change the scene variable of minutes to 0 and hours. Stick with me here. And then we're going to have a day cycle. Okay. All of these are numbers. So now we've created them, if you will, visually. And we can remove these later or whatever. But so now that's the first thing we're going to do. Now, on a new variable, we need to set every X amount of seconds. So this is where we begin. We can call seconds. We're going to call them ticks. Okay. X amount of ticks. We're going to increase the time into minutes and hours into the day. So now we can say wait. Every wait every 1 second. We want to add to a variable. So every 1 second, let's add to a tick. So now we can say change the scene variable of tick to +1. gdevelop 5. So now we can, let's create a new function, add a new group, and call this ticks. So every second, we're adding 1 tick. And then, underneath this, it has to be a sub-event. HTML5 and JavaScript. If you really wanted to learn a game engine, if you're super serious, I don't know that I can honestly suggest using gdevelop 5 as this is a difficult stance. If you're starting out, is gdevelop 5 going to be the thing that helps you grow into a efficient programmer? No, it won't. Will it help you make a game? Absolutely. Will it take some of the stress off of you so you don't have to do as much? Yeah, absolutely. But being a game developer has so many aspects that you have to consider, like doing your artwork, making music, doing the marketing and everything crazy. Like all these steps, they matter. That time is money, and so you have to start thinking about, the pace that you want to learn something. If I truly wanted to develop something and grow my coding knowledge at the same time as my development skills, I would probably use Godot, or what you might know as Godot, but it's pronounced Godot. Godot is written in Python, or it's not. It's written in GDScript, but the coding syntax of that language is very, very similar to Python. Very similar. And if you practice writing GDScript, you will naturally pick up the skills you need to start programming in Python. So it's kind of 2 birds, 1 stone. And I would highly recommend, if you wanted to grow in that way, you should do that. Can you start off with Roblox Studio? Yeah, you can start anywhere you want. Is it going to be easier or harder? I'm not very familiar with it, but I believe that when we were looking at Roblox in a previous session that we were talking, they used Python, perhaps? ? I don't remember. But you can start learning anywhere, but you will become better as you practice. Oh, they use Lua. Okay. Well, then there you go. If that's what you're interested in doing, go do that. Don't let the challenge of learning stop you. You just got to decide where you want to put your attention. It's best if you commit to one thing, though. You know, you should learn. You should stick it out all the way through. So, um, there is a lot of. I mean, that's true. If you want your code to get in front of a big audience, you have with so many Roblox players, you have a great opportunity in front of you to have people see your code. And if that's what you're trying to do, then there you go. Problem solved. So here, if we were calculating in time, right? If we changed, let's go back to seconds for a second, right? And every 1 second, change seconds. Add 1. We're gonna do that constantly. Then, if it is 11:05, yep. Wow, big time difference. 12 hours. So, are you somewhere in Asia? Okay. Have a good night. Let's see here. So the sub events is if seconds is greater than so if seconds are scene variable, so variable scene number scene variable, there we go. If the number of seconds is equal to 60, right? And in this case we want to do greater than. Then we need to change the variable of minutes well we're not this is just we're going to keep track of real time for a minute, right? So we're going to pretend that when we launch our game, daytime is based on that cycle, right? And this is just a demonstration. And then we're going to fine tune that cycle to then fit what we want it to do. But I'm trying to show this is how you would structure this variable, because basically now what we want to do is target then the minutes. So let's see. Normally in this particular case, let's see here. So if seconds are greater than effectively 60 at a minute, if the change the variable modulated by 60, we want to keep seconds my brain, I hate math. I hate thinking about this. Because what I want to do is I want to now cap 60 seconds. Because, like, there's so many different times where, like, you have to be... If you really want to calculate these things because of, like, how fast your FPS is, because of all these other factors, we have to limit them. And normally, I believe I would do some sort of modulation here. Do a modula to restrict it to be... like, you know, when seconds are between, like, for each... Like, in my head, right? I don't know if this makes sense, but what I'm seeing in my head is the variable seconds modulated by 60. Like, that, this is just what I'm saying. Like, in my head. This makes sense. And then what we could do is say that the minutes are divided by 60. Or not, that if we divide... So if the scene is... If the seconds are... If the seconds are greater than seconds to 60. So every 59 seconds, add a minute. Go to our game scene. We can set some of our text in that scene. So what we can say, just for the simplicity of this, is we're going to take this debugger and apply it here. Just to make sure that I'm not crazy. Give me this. Copy. There we go. We want to set the day counter. I want to set time TC to minutes. And we'll set the other... I don't know why I did that. I could have just... Whatever. Day debug to seconds. Okay. Whoa! Okay, clearly not accurate. So here, if seconds, I thought that that would have worked. Okay. Okay, so I want every... So in my head, right? So I'm just thinking like, so what I need to do is every time that... Every time seconds... I need to do a math extension here. Math extension. I just need an expression. How do I do this? I'm trying to... Because, okay, so I know what I need to do, but I'm trying to figure out... Because effectively, right, if... Let me show you this. So, or at least I think I know what I need to do. So if every second... so every one, we plus one, right? Then we need to, for seconds, right? We need to every seconds divided by 60, convert that to a minute. And then we need to modulate seconds. We want to keep seconds always between the range of whenever seconds divided by 60, like whenever... Dude, I can't even math right now. This is pissing me off. Trying to think about how I want to do ticks and everything. So I'm thinking in my game, you know, what I want is our minutes, our seconds, or we in this case I want ticks. And these are like intervals that we're measuring in our game. And I'm trying to decide, do I want that to be minutes based? Do I want, like, how do I want this time scale to work without making it real life time? Because, like, in my head, obviously, my brain's like, well, we can say we add we every second. Yeah, okay, I didn't think that. I don't know what I'm thinking here. I just want to see what happens as I play around with time delta. So we're getting like every 100, we're getting like a proper second. Like 1/1000, but not quite. Yeah, but I don't want this to be end up becoming like super complicated where we have um I want it to reset on such a smaller time scale, you know? 4/1000, 5/1000, 6/1000. Yeah, so it's like it's not quite right. I feel like we need to times it by time delta though, right? Because that's our tick rate. So that way we can make sure that we're always in tick with our FPS. So even if our FPS drops, it should always stay the same. When the number variable of it's like my brain. Man, I'm not getting anything done today. This sucks. The simple day and night cycle is easy to implement, but I don't know why I'm struggling with this. I feel like it's basic math. What is happening here? So if it's greater than, obviously it would be, like we would say if it was greater than 60, add to a minute, but obviously our tick rate isn't right because it's not really waiting every second. It feels like I need to do this, you know? But so You know what? Hold on a second. My whole brain, I just had like an epiphany, actually. Like I had a real aha moment. So, okay, so effectively, if seconds, okay, so at the beginning, right? Every X seconds, this is our condition. Every X seconds, we're going to trigger, um, okay, so let me make sure that there's nothing spooky, nothing weird going on here. Wait, why did? Okay, so you see that we need it to be by times delta. Okay, I wasn't wrong. Okay, so time delta. So every 1 second based on our frame count. So that way it's always relevant and stays functioning. Or the FPS limit cap of the system, which is like 60, right? So every second, um, add one. Next, if the seconds counter, if the variable number seconds is greater than 60 or more, then add a number of minutes equal to the excess seconds to the minutes counter. So it needs to be in here. Trigger once every second. If the seconds variable reaches 60, we need to add a minute, right? Okay. Now, what we really want, though, is to set okay, hold on. So once it reaches 60 seconds, add the number of extra seconds to the minutes counter. Which is what we're doing. Then we need to, underneath this, and set minutes to seconds divided by 60. And then we're only going to keep seconds up to 60. So we're going to like divide. If the seconds counter reaches 60 or so, as once 60 when we hit to 60 seconds or more, we're going to add the leftover. If okay. So calculate the number of extra minutes based on. I hate this. I hate math. I'm just trying to figure out how to translate this in my head. What I'm struggling with, right, is if I take minutes and minutes equal the variable seconds divided by 60. It should actually be minutes plus seconds divided by 60. So you see, we have a problem, friends. Is this supposed to be in here? Okay, every 60, it should be adding a variable of minutes plus seconds divided by 60. Oh. Now, we need to keep the remaining seconds between 0 and 60. So Why is it so hard? It's so, like, it's so straightforward. I just can't figure out how to say it in the system. So effectively, right? Let me show you this. Let me load my sticky notes. Okay. Conditions and action. So as a condition, there's no condition here, right? Okay, yeah. So as a condition, every second, we're gonna do this. And then under that, we have everything else for one. So here we go. So every second, add this. If seconds are greater than 60, add a minute. That should only happen once, right? Like, I mean, it should be happening. Okay, so basically, in my head, I don't know why I'm struggling here. So basically, what we have right now is this. So right now, if the counter reaches 60 or more, let me turn this part off. It didn't even change there. Why did that happen? Maybe it needs to be here. Why is that timer not changing? We're not even getting that update as it should be. Right. Make sure that's only happening per once. We should be seeing a +1 there. I don't know what I've done or why it's not working. But that simply that should work, right? Unless I goofed it up and I pulled it too far out. No. What? Greater than or equal to. This should happen. That's not changing. I want to know why. Like, just alone, that should work. Like, I'm just this is the part that's like choking me up, is that effectively, even no, well, yeah, that would need to be the case if we're trying to get more than one, though, right? Because the first time that this runs, it's not adding. Once the oh my, oh, okay. So all of my stress has come from the fact that that is a global variable and not a scene variable. So going backwards, it turns out that I'm just an idiot. So now we have some craziness happening, but it is working. So if I turn this off, we should get a 1. Well, it's going to keep going because it doesn't recycle, right? And so that's what we were trying to do. So, okay. Oh, that took way too long to figure out that I had put a global variable, not a scene variable. That's painful. Okay. So, now, we need to add some more conditions. So, we want to add a minute, and then we want to set the current minutes to minutes plus seconds divided by 60. But then we need to also cycle through and make sure that that any remaining seconds, the seconds is divided by 60 as well. Because we're doing math, right? So they should be interlinking. So we can remodulate that. So for each this is an instance of an object. I'm trying to think. Okay, so basically, right? Once it reaches 60 or more actions, we need to calculate the number of excess minutes and add it to the minute counter. So that's what we're so once we reach 60 seconds, we need to calculate the calculate the number of excess minutes. We need to go to, so when minutes equal seconds divided by 60, right? So minutes Hey, look, I'm not dumb. But this is really seconds because we haven't added the last reset. So set the so the the value of minutes is seconds divided by 60. We're really counting like microseconds at the moment. And then we need to reset. So now we need to divide seconds by 60 because we don't know how long a second is necessarily, right? So now in the next section here, I'm not, only the remaining. So now what I need to do is keep like so the variable of seconds to seconds divided by 60. When so it doesn't have to be a full number, right? Keep only the remaining seconds from 0 to the scene variable seconds needs to be set to this is the last part that I'm struggling with. So now that we need to set the seconds to be within so greater than 60, then minutes. Okay. It's a modulation. I was trying to figure out how to we need this need to be 59 then. Hmm. Okay, so every second, add one. Then we need to compare. So if seconds are greater than 60, add. Then we need to do this. Like that. This should be it, right? Hold on. These need to be like that for one. So why isn't that adding? Because we're getting back to 59. So does this need to be 61? This is so frustrating. Oops. We're gonna go back to our music here. Set that back up. It's because I'm returning a full number, I think, actually, here. No. Okay, what if I get rid of delta time? I think it's going to break it, but that's fine. That's funny. Okay, so oh my goodness. Not quite. What's happening here? Okay, that's the thing I don't understand. So that makes sense because we're only getting 1 second, and we're going back to 0 because we're resetting the timer. So do we need like I feel like this is right. I don't compare the two. So this needs to be its own thing. This should be its own thing, and that should be its own thing. Okay, something weird's happening here. Okay, so we need to add some variables, right? So if so when Wait a minute. Wait a second. Oh! Oh! I'm so frustrated right now. You would not believe. I don't know why that hurts my soul. Today has been sometimes math would be like that for me. That was a very simple solve. So now what we can do is we can change seconds to ticks. And do ticks to seconds. Or minutes. And then seconds to minutes. Or hours, and then... Right? So, now... When... seconds is greater than 60, add a minute. So now... Oh, man. All right. So now we can duplicate this. It's awful right now. I understand. We will get this all organized and you'll see it'll be nice and pretty. So the first thing we're going to do is clean this up. Come on. Kind of overlap these a little bit and you'll see why. So first thing, we're going to change this one to ticks. This one to seconds. And then this one to minutes. I'm literally, like, as soon as I'm done with this stream, I'm going to make a video on how not to follow my stream and how to do it this way. So, seconds to seconds, minutes to minutes. Okay. Now, oops. What? What happened there? There we go. Did I... Oh, currently it's nothing. So it should be 0. Why didn't that work? Because this one isn't on the right layer. That's why. There we go. So now we have a day and night cycle. Well, we have a actual seconds to minutes to hours to day. And so we can change it in our manager to be ticks. Ticks plus variable string. And honestly, we can now change ticks to time scale. Okay. And we can get rid of these. And we're going to change ticks to time scale. Now, when we go into back into our day-night cycle, we can do plus new line. Adds a new line. Now this one needs to be plus seconds. Space plus variable, and now instead of ticks, seconds. And then we're just going to copy this whole thing again and change minutes. One more time. Hours. Hours. So now seconds to minute, seconds to minute. Wait, no. This needs to be all right. Just hold the phone. All right. And a minute and seconds set to minutes. Set no. Sorry. My brain. You don't need to do this. You're fine the way you work. Close this. And this is the same thing for every other one. So now minutes. All right. So now we have a ticking day and night cycle. And just to test this out, we're just going to set it to 10. So every 10 seconds, a minute will pass. Ooh, stomach just made a terrifying noise. I haven't eaten all day. Okay. Ah, that's why. This should be minutes. There we go. So now we've got a working time system, and from that we can begin our day and night cycles. So I'm going to stop here today because we are going to redo this entire video. I appreciate everyone stopping in. But we're gonna leave this one here, but we're gonna continue on and redo this another day. So for now, I appreciate everyone stopping in. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me. I'm gonna fix this, and then we're gonna return in our next video. Thank you guys.